Angels. We all have them. They're our unseen guides, our companions, our teachers, and they're all around us. Sometimes they make themselves known in the most miraculous ways. Join me, angel communicator, Reiki master, and QHHT hypnotherapist Christy Clemens Hoffman, with stories from real people who have experienced real-life angel encounters. Well, for our first ever real-life angel encounter, I am joined by Erin. Erin, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's good. You're so welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm just so excited to get this going. And you had a really good story. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, yes. And I think about it often because it really shifted my life. Just to give you a little background, when I was 19, I was raped. And from 19, it's just part of my timeline. But thank you. It took me about 10 years to heal from that. And someone said, well, congratulations, you've gone through the final stage of healing, letting go of the unconscious. Well, as we know, those things never truly leave us. And so it was, I don't know, probably 10 years after that. So in my mid 30s or so, I was in the Johnson County area living. And for some reason on a Sunday morning, I felt the need and the draw and the call to drive down to the Nelson Atkins Museum. It's my favorite place in Kansas City, and it's always called to me. And so I got in my car and I started driving. And what I felt was this real churning in my gut of some emotion. And I knew exactly what the emotion was coming from. And I could just feel it just welling and stirring and expanding. So by the time I got down to the Nelson Atkins Museum and parked along the street, I was a total mess. Like we are talking full on ball. Everything was, flowing, including through the nose and the mouth. And I just buried my head into the steering wheel. And I had to remind myself that that was when I was 19. It's almost 20 years later. Stay in the present moment and you are safe. You are okay. And I looked up from my steering wheel and there's this gentleman that was walking by, and a poor guy was walking his dogs. And I don't think he knew exactly what to do with me because I was just a tearful mess.
Oh,
but I gathered myself, wiped the tears, and knew that I was called to the Nelson Atkins Museum for a reason, and I needed to go walk around the sculpture garden.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for those of you who are not from Kansas City and listening to this, the Nelson Atkins is a gorgeous, gorgeous, world-class art history museum.
Hands down.
World-class, a beautiful museum. It's got a beautiful sculpture garden around it.
Yes, very much so. And so I was called to walk around, and as I was entering the sculpture garden, the little rock entrance, a complete, almost takeover, if you will. I felt the presence of, I know for a fact, it was Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael. And I am telling you, Christy, the wings on these angels were massive. And I had Archangel Michael on my left side, and he was, put his arm through mine, and Raphael was on the other side and linked arms with me. And even though I was physically walking, I really felt like I was levitating. And they were guiding me through the sculpture garden. And just that reassurance of this massive, if you will, feeling of grace came over me. And I have been forever grateful for that moment, because I really haven't had any of those moments where, like, kind of the regurgitation, if you will, of that, all those emotions since then, because they were there to guide me. And the wings, it's still, I was sharing the story just before I hopped on that I was going to be on with you today. And I was sharing my story, and I said, to my friend, you have no idea how glorious these wings were. And I'm just covered in goosebumps just thinking about it. But the grace and the love and the fact that I was called to my favorite place in the Kansas City area since moving here. And they were calling me to one last time, I believe, to release any of that residual. Not that I don't think about it anymore, but that final kind of goodbye of that energy that I had around that, if you want to call it a traumatic, it really was
very traumatic,
moment in my life.
Absolutely.
To kind of release that. And they were there to support me and to guide me.
That is absolutely beautiful. I do not doubt for a second that those angels were on either side of you. I mean, we feel them. It's undeniable when we have these encounters, I think. So, like, what senses did you perceive them with?
Well, probably now, because I'm a little more aware of these guides. Back then it was just really just that gut feeling. And I've learned to trust my gut, because I think that that's gut is God, spirit, the universe telling you something. And back then I really didn't have a complete understanding of what that was. I just knew that I was being told that I needed to go down there, and they were going to meet me there. It's just, that was their way.
Simple.
Yeah, it really is. And I think we
complicate it.
Yes.
A lot. We complicate things. It can be just as simple as meeting a friend somewhere. And and that's why I ask about the sense, like, what type of sense did you perceive? Is that when we get that sense, even if it's a visual sense, it's glowing. If it's a auditory sense, it's usually very etheric sounding, but not always. And if it's the gut sense, it's the feeling. It's usually just so undeniable. It's just realer than real in some ways, and can often be, right? And yeah, you're absolutely correct. And when I really tuned into it in that moment, I really wasn't even driving myself, if that makes sense. Like I was physically doing it, but I was not in control, because I do remember just feeling while the heaviness of the experience was welling up inside of me, there was a lightness as I was driving down there. And honestly, I don't even remember really driving down there, if you will. It was, I was just, the angels had taken the wheel and allowed me to get down there, and allowed me to at least park the car before I couldn't see because of all the tears. I'm grateful for that, because it was as soon as I pulled into the parking space, and mind you, this was a Sunday morning, so there weren't a lot of cars on the street, but I knew if I didn't park soon, it was the tears were coming, and I was not going to be able to see, and I was probably going to be a danger to anybody else on the road. But it was almost such a healing part of that final, even though someone had said, well, you've let go of the unconscious, Aaron, so that's the final stage of healing. I really and truly think, Christy, that those angels showed up to say, oh no,
this is the final stage of healing.
I love that.
And we are here for you no matter what. And the fact that it wasn't inside a building, it was within nature. There wasn't anybody else around. And to have the grace of those two angels there just really helped guide me. And it brought to light, I think, when we talked about complicating things, and it brought that simplicity. So I think sometimes when we tune into that, we can realize in other moments, lighter moments. I've had encounters with, angels off and on, but in a very light sense. And I think they allowed me that moment in time to prepare for other moments for them to come in, and not in such a abrupt, way, in an even more simplistic way, for them to come in and, just tap me on the shoulder every once in a while and, remind me that they're there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we truly are never alone. And that's why I started doing this work. In fact, I feel like I'm on a mission to let people know we're not alone, never, ever for a moment. But there are some moments where we're more aware than other moments. And when we do have that awareness, we have that sense that they're with us. Perhaps we have some sort of glimmer of their sight. Sometimes we may hear something. Sometimes we feel it in the gut. But the last sense is that we have that knowing. We just know that, you could say that feather came out of nowhere, but I know it came from an angel, right? It's like you could say that you felt like you were lifting up and kind of gliding along, but I know something else was going on. So there's that knowing that comes in as well. And I love that you have other stories too. We might have to bring you back to tell some other stories as well. I feel like we all have them.
It's such a gift to ourselves if we will allow our hearts and our souls to open up to the possibilities of knowing.
Right.
And that's so powerful. We're in an environment right now where a lot of people are spending a lot of time alone. And I thank you for the reminder that we aren't, and verbalizing that for everyone to hear, because we aren't alone.
No, at every moment.
Care of. I totally agree.
Yes. Right. Every moment we've got our guardian angel, we've got archangels, we've got ascended masters, we've got anyone who we want to call in, but we're surrounded at all times with these loving beings. And I do feel that, and belief is not required. There's not even we don't even have to believe in angels to know that they're there, although it is helpful if we do, and I love what you said about just being open to the possibility. And that really allows for such magic to happen and such magic to come in. Just that openness. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't have to know what's going on. But I'm just open to the grace. I'm open to the divine. I'm open to the possibilities. And that does allow for these things to happen, and for us to have that knowledge and that knowing, be able to feel them around us. Yeah, I just loved your story, and I loved how you had this depth of despair. You thought you were done with it, but just like a laundry basket, you take a layer off, and then you can get to the next layer, and that layer was coming up for healing, and you weren't alone to do it. And just listen to that guidance. How many times we kind of feel like, it'd be nice to go to the Nelson today, or I just kind of feel like I'd like to go for a drive, but then we put it away. We shove that feeling down, but no, you listen to it. So
I've had enough of those experiences where, believe me, if you ignore it and you just push it aside, it will keep coming, and you wonder why you trip up the stairs, or why, and I've just learned to pay attention to those things. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't listen the first time, and now you're reminding me. I just stubbed my toe, that type of scenario.
Absolutely.
And when you've got, when you have that knowing, may I share briefly about a human experience?
Please,
do we have time?
Please.
Okay.
Oh yeah, please.
So part of this awareness that came about from the Nelson experience with the two angels, I was rushing around. I was participating. I was helping out with an art auction for my son's school, and I needed to pick up a sample vase. And I ran into Walmart real quick, and I went to their floral section, and I had a meeting after that. And I knew I was pushing it, but as moms, we all try to like fit everything in, and when we're working and all of that. And I went down the aisle and I picked up my vase, and I saw this woman there, and she was older, she was elderly. And out of the blue, she asked me, I saw her looking at some of the, I don't want to call it necessarily potpourri, but like the decorative stuff that you put inside a bowl.
Vase fillers, you're right.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. And she stopped me and she said, "May I ask your opinion?" And I said, "Sure." And, the creative side of me is always, loves that moment. So I made a few suggestions, and I could feel the sense of urgency to make it to my next meeting completely subside. And I got so calm. And I know, while I didn't physically have an angel presence at that moment, I had the voice of spirit come to me and say, no, you're not supposed to be in that meeting. You're supposed to be right here. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, because this woman, she shared with me that she had lost her husband within the year. And this was her first Thanksgiving that she would be by herself.
Oh my.
And she was she wanted to do something new as a centerpiece for the Thanksgiving dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped with all of that. And I took the time and took a breath, and I knew I was called to be there.
Right.
And at the very end, I helped her put the stuff in the cart, and she touched my hand and she said, "I know you're busy. I could tell. But I want to thank you, because I think God put you here because I needed you to be here. And I want you to know," and she used the word angel. She goes, "May the angels watch over you." And I was like, "Ma'am," I said, "you've been a gift to me, because I wasn't supposed to be anywhere. Yes, you're absolutely right. I have a meeting that I'm supposed to be at right now, but there's no other place that I needed to be, and I was called to be here. So you have been a blessing to me." And I walked out. I made a call and I said, "I'm running 5 minutes late. You're just going to have to start without me, because I was called to be there. I was called to be there." And I consider that a moment of grace. And when she said, "May the angels watch over you," I was like, there was no other place I was supposed to be.
I absolutely love that. And we can either choose to recognize that and say, yes, that was truly a touching moment. I really needed to be there. Or we can continue with our lives. Of course, we've got that free will. We can continue with our lives. Like, "Look, lady, I would love to sit here and help you, but I really have to go." And she probably would have understood, because we do understand that, hey, I'm bothering a complete stranger here. But, you both chose to recognize in that moment that there was a true connection. And I believe that, our guides, our angels, a spirit can put people in your path. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be an actual angel. It can be a physical person at the angel's place. And that counts just as much.
She was my angel that day. Absolutely. She was my angel that day.
Right.
Because the rest of the day I put my priorities in proper alignment.
Right.
And, it enriched my life. And I think about it often. And you are absolutely right. How many people, it kind of opens up the question when you recognize it. how many other people have I missed?
Right. How many people have I missed?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I love how things just kind of naturally dovetail and flow together. All of the things that, we know, mindfulness, awareness about energy and angels. And in that moment, that all came together. You chose to be very mindful in the moment and just savor the opportunity. Listen to the woman. So many times we don't even listen to people. And you chose to listen, and she chose to listen to you. And then you both chose to recognize it and be mindful in that moment about, this was extraordinary. This felt really nice. This felt like it was needed.
Mm-hmm.
So many times we're just busy bustling that we don't take that moment and stop. That kind of reminds me of a moment where I was driving and crying. You know how that goes with your first story, driving and crying.
I've had a lot of those.
I've had a few. And I came to an intersection near, for those who are in Kansas City listening, the Country Club Plaza. If you're not from this area, it's just a place where it's a nice part of town, and there's often a homeless person standing on a corner. And I get to a light, and there is a homeless person standing on the corner. And I was, like you said in your first story, I was a mess. I was ugly crying. I am not ashamed to admit it. I was ugly crying. And I thought, oh gosh, this guy, I'm going to have to make eye contact with this guy. And so I just looked over at him, and he taps his chest, nods his head, and points to the sky. And he locked eyes with me. And oh my God, I'm getting very emotional just now thinking of it. But in that moment, I knew it was Archangel Michael in human form, or at least a human that was sent by Archangel Michael. And the connection, the warmth that I got from this person, it completely lifted me and completely lifted my spirits. And it put me in a way different headspace. And I remember that this was 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it as if, your story too, I'm sure you just remember it as if it was yesterday. And it touched me. But, I could have thought, oh God, there's a homeless guy. Let me see if I've got some change, or like, don't make eye contact because I don't have any money to give him. But no, it was, very similar to your story. It was transformative. It was magical. Thank goodness I was mindful and present and recognized it for what it was. It was a beautiful moment, one that I'll treasure. Right. And
life should be beautiful. It really should be beautiful.
It should be beautiful.
Should be beautiful and full of joy. And we just bombard ourselves with other things. So how amazing. I'm not sure what I would do if someone that, on the side of the street, tapped his chest and pointed upward. I mean, you made me emotional. I was like, whoa, that's powerful. That is so powerful.
No words, right? No words. And it was a transformative moment. So yeah, these things go on around us all the time. We just have to be aware, be open, as you said, right? Open our hearts, just like you said, open our hearts to the possibilities, and just be aware. And we can choose to see things. I think it was Einstein said we can choose to see things in one of two ways. One is if nothing is a miracle, and one is if everything is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's kind of like the why and why not, well, why, if it can be this way, if you say it can be this way, then why not? Why can't it be this way?
Right.
Why not? Why can't it be the other side of the coin, if you will? So,
yeah. Right. A cynical person might say, oh, well, that was just a chance encounter. It's like, you really think that was something special? It's like, yeah, I do. What harm does it cause? It makes me happy to know, have that knowing, does it matter? Doesn't matter. But I really do choose to believe
that was something a little bit more than usual, a little bit more than human. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Erin, thank you so much for sharing your story with me. I loved hearing it. And the second story, what a bonus. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, you are very welcome. Be well and be blessed.
You too. Be well and be blessed.
Subscribe and follow wherever you're listening now, and be sure to tell your friends. The more people know about this podcast, the more great story submissions we get. Submit your own real-life angel encounters to angelencounterspodcast@gmail.com. Want to know what your angels and loved ones have to tell you? Schedule an appointment with me at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.